All right, let's say Monday afternoon hello to Will Brinson of the Pick Six podcast. So, Will, if we stick with the Cowboys here, first topic, right? So I guess it becomes whether you, Dallas fans and any Dallas backers believe that they will take that embarrassing loss and then put forth a much better effort tonight. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, that trend is a little disturbing as somebody who wants to back the Chargers tonight, Tommy. But I do think, you see that sort of bounce back. I think we'll see some kind of bounce back from the Cowboys. I pointed out this is a Kellen Moore revenge spot. We'll get to that in a second. But it's a Mike McCarthy revenge spot too, right? I mean, this is a guy who, I think Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore both want to prove that they know what they're doing from an offensive standpoint and, that they are capable of calling plays and that they're the better play caller. And for the Cowboys, it's also one of those situations where, we see last week, the Niners just obliterate the Cowboys. I mean, I likened it to, there's an exclusive NFC club of contenders, and the Cowboys basically grabbed the Niners by the scruff of their neck and tossed them out the door and said, "You're not welcome here. You're not one of us. You're not a contender." And then you have the Niners lose, the Eagles lose, the Lions step up and win, but the Cowboys can get right back into that mix with a road win against the Chargers. And I would anticipate too that when we see the stands fill up, that it may not be entirely Chargers fans there, that we could see quite a few Dallas fans in attendance for this game. And Dak Prescott, as you can see, pretty good on Monday Night Football.
No doubt. And, of course, the Cowboys certainly love Oxnard, California. Southern California, certainly a Cowboy town to some degree as well. And you mentioned Kellen Moore, of course, gets to face his old team, and he's also getting some reinforcements like Austin Eckler back here. How big of a boost is that for him, and what are you anticipating from a play-calling perspective tonight?
Yeah, Eckler's huge. And I think it's going to be, look, he's one of the best running backs in football, dynamic. Friend of the podcast, by the way, been on the Pick Six pod with us. He's a guy who can catch a ball to the backfield, can run between the tackles. I think what's really important to note here is that if you look at the two games that the Cowboys have lost to teams out west, right, the Cardinals and then the 49ers, in those games, both the Cardinals and the 49ers attacked Micah Parsons with the run. You run at Micah Parsons. You force him to become a run defender and not a pass rusher. And Austin Eckler, a very similar player to Christian McCaffrey. I think that if Kellen Moore is, it's a Kellen Moore versus Dan Quinn too, right? They know each other very well. I think if Kellen Moore is smart, he will utilize Austin Eckler to attack Micah Parsons, to force Micah Parsons to be a run defender and to not let him sort of tee off and become a pass rusher. At the same time, with Mike McCarthy's comments this offseason, I do a terrible Mike McCarthy impression, but he's like, Kellen wants to light up the scoreboard. I just want to run the damn ball, right? I mean, Kellen Moore's going to want to light up the scoreboard, and he may want to pass. I worry a little bit about that he tries to showcase Justin Herbert too much versus attacking the Cowboys maybe at a point of weakness.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, by the way. Maybe a little deeper, but I still rate it as a 6 out of 10.
No, that's like if Mike McCarthy was from the deep South and he's from Pittsburgh. So nobody, but it sounds good. It sounds good, right?
Yeah, a little bit of that cross-regional. It does sound good. I'm curious what sounds good to you. Now, I know you hinted at the Chargers here, so it's a 1.5 and a total of 51, which I might add from Sunday, depending on where and when you got the Niners and Browns game, 12-2 or 11-2-1 to the under this week so far. So what's the strongest play for you coming into tonight's game?
Yeah, massive week for unders. We've seen, I think it's the second highest rate of unders hitting since 2005, I believe, and last year was the only one that was higher. So we're talking just in recent years, you see these big numbers and it tends to come under. I think, you will see some conservative play calling for both sides just in terms of running the ball. But I mean, obviously this is going to be a close game. The Chargers don't really play in blowouts. They're like the AFC version of the Vikings, right? It's one-score games every week. I don't think the Cowboys can blow out the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers can blow out the Cowboys. Both offenses are just too explosive. I do think we'll see maybe some second half scoring where it gets ramped up a little bit, maybe a slower start. I would lean towards the Chargers here, though. I think underdogs have been, we've just seen these home dogs. I know it's not a full home game because it's the Chargers, but last 4 primetime games, as you can see, the dog in 3 of them, and they covered in all 4 of those, including, I feel like they got a couple outright wins there as well.
All right, Will, appreciate you, my man. Make sure to catch Will Brinson and the Super Friends, Ryan Wilson and John Breach on the Pick Six podcast. I caught their pod last night where they recapped every single game from Sunday. Also thrown in, as always, pop culture references, nice little throwbacks. Make sure to scan that QR code and check out the Pick Six podcast today.